If you've ever felt guilty because you're not bold enough about your faith, or if you've ever listened to a sermon or a conference talk and thought, I believe this, but I don't act like that. Or if you've ever wondered about your quiet way of loving people and thought maybe somehow it counted less, I want you to hear this right away. You are not failing. You are not behind. And you're not some sort of problem that God needs to fix. There's a kind of pressure in the church that doesn't get talked about very much. It's the pressure to be louder, more confident, and more outward. And to speak up more, invite more, share more. And if that's not how you're wired, faith can slowly start to feel exhausting. So today, I want to slow things down, not to lower the bar for faithfulness, but to tell the truth about it. This is a conversation for people who listen deeply, who notice quietly, and who love faithfully without a spotlight. We're going to talk about outreach that fits your wiring, your pace, and the way God actually shaped you. Not just what would Jesus do, but what would faithfulness look like as Jesus works through you. There's a quiet pressure many introverts feel in the church, and it usually doesn't come from anything anyone says out loud. It comes from the stories we tell, the sermons we preach, conference stages, and from the way outreach is often celebrated. We celebrate the bold invitation, the dramatic testimony, the public moment of courage. If you're wired more quietly, you may start to wonder whether your faith counts as much. Start to wonder whether you're doing it wrong or whether you need to become someone else in order to be faithful or fruitful. That pressure is rarely intentional, but it's real. And over time, it can turn something beautiful into something heavy. Before we talk about anything practical, we need to clear something up. Outreach is not a personality test. And evangelism is not performance. Jesus did not call everyone to speak in the same way, in the same setting, or with the same energy. He called fishermen and tax collectors, zealots and skeptics, loud voices and quiet ones. Faithfulness has always come in many forms. And introverts are not deficient extroverts. And all the introverts said, amen. Or maybe they just commented it. Introverts are not deficient extroverts. They're not a problem to be solved. They are fully formed disciples. So if outreach has felt vaguely like intimidating, exhausting, guilt-inducing, it may not be because you're resistant. It may be because you were handed a version of outreach that was never designed for you. And here's the distinction that matters most. The Bible doesn't actually tell us to do witnessing. It tells us to be witnesses. Being a witness is about who you are, your presence, your character, your way of loving people. Long before it's about what you say in the moment, like it's about you and how you are and God in you. So when we turn witnessing into something we do, it becomes a performance. But when we understand it as something about the way we are, it becomes a way of life. And that's where introverts it's actually where introverts often shine, quietly and consistently over time. So outreach isn't about convincing people. It's about being present with them. Introverts excel at presence. They notice what other people miss. They read tone and emotions, and they can sit in silence without rushing to fill it because they're anxious. Sometimes outreach looks like staying at the table when everyone else has moved on. Sometimes it looks like listening without fixing. Sometimes witnessing, it looks like being the one person who doesn't rush in to over-spiritualize someone's pain. Presence is not passive. It's attentive, it's costly, and deeply Christ-like. Many introverts feel the pressure to say the right thing, but outreach often doesn't begin with answers. Good outreach begins with curiosity. Introverts thrive in one-on-one conversations where depth is invited rather than it's demanded. So, introverts, instead of asking, how do I bring faith into this? Try asking questions that are like just about being human. Ask, what's heavy for you lately? You're built for this. Like, ask, what are you hoping for right now? Or something like, what's the season? What has this season been like for you? These aren't like bait and switch questions. They're doorways. And very often, people walk through them on their own. Like curiosity, it honors pace. It builds trust without pressure and allows faith conversations to emerge naturally. Introverts don't need to disappear to be faithful. But visibility doesn't have to be loud. Small, consistent presence often speaks louder than the dramatic moments. That might look like showing up regularly, being dependable, being calm and kind, and letting values show through choices rather than speeches. So, you don't need to announce what you believe. People often notice long before they ask. And when they do ask, it's usually because trust already exists. Many introverts communicate best in writing, and that's not a weakness, that's a gift. A thoughtful text, a handwritten note, a follow-up message after a hard conversation, or a simple line that says, "I've been thinking about you." Like, these moments matter, and introverts get those so much because they're slow and intentional and deeply personal. Some of the most meaningful outreach happens after the room clears and the noise quiets. Introverts, they often thrive in environments where expectations are clear and relational pressure is low. So outreach doesn't always mean stepping into chaos. I'm grateful for people who can do that. Sometimes outreach means creating a calm environment, like a walk instead of going to coffee, or a small dinner instead of a big, loud event, or meeting consistently with one or two people over a long period of time. People who are hurting, they often crave safety more than stimulation, and introverts are often natural cultivators of a safe space. So one of the most faithful practices for introverts is knowing your limits and honoring them. You don't have to apologize for that. You don't need to attend every event. You don't need to engage every conversation or say yes to every opportunity. Introvert friends, burnout is not faithfulness. We're followers of Jesus. Jesus withdrew often, not because he was weak, not because he was broken. He withdrew often because he was wise. Introverts often play the long game instinctively with people, and that's a strength. Outreach isn't always this immediate dramatic encounter, and it doesn't always produce visible results. Sometimes it looks like years of quiet faithfulness. Jesus spent far more time walking, eating, listening, and being interrupted than rushing people into a faith decision. Faith, true faith, grows slowly, and so do relationships, and so does trust. If outreach has been discouraging, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not behind, you're not less faithful, and you're not doing it wrong. Your way of loving people matters so much. Your peace matters, and your presence matters. In a loud and distracted, anxious world, quiet faith can feel countercultural, but it is deeply needed. You don't need to become someone else to participate in God's work. You don't need to become anyone or try on different personalities. You need to become more fully yourself, the yourself that God made. That's what you need. That's what the world needs. Thanks for spending time with me on this groundwork. Until next time, keep practicing faithful presence.